just want to know how you got into local government and where you started, where you went.
But I started in Brisbane City Council in February 1962 as a junior clerical officer.
Oh, right, yeah.
And then I was there for 10.5 years, and I went to Bow Desert. And I was at Bow Desert for 7.5 years.
Oh, so you'd have been Desert 72.
Yeah. And I qualified as a local government clerk while I was in Brisbane under the old scheme. With no university degree or anything like that. You just basically what you did was get the last 10 years examination papers and study up, and off you went. And you had to get 60% to pass, and I think I got 61%, but I got a local government clerk
certificate. As I said, I started off with that when I started in Chinchilla in '69.
But I did well. When I did my junior, I got 5 A's and 3 B's.
Wow!
But there was no suggestion of my going further in school because the family didn't have a lot of money and that sort of stuff. So it was just never discussed really. I was going to leave when I did my junior and get a job.
Right.
And actually, I had offers from a bank, an insurance company, and the Brisbane City Council. It was a different world.
Yeah.
And I could have picked just about any bloody job I wanted.
No, I left high school and I had the choice of either going Commonwealth Bank or National Bank. For some unknown reason, went National because the old man was National, so I went there and then stood that for 9 months, and then it was the bloody Vietnam War thing came up, and I was up for conscription thing, and then I missed that, dodged that bullet, and
my marble came up.
Oh, did it?
But I was married.
Yeah.
And but they said my standard of fitness did not meet the requirements or something. I think luckily I got and something like flat feet or something. They never said there was anything wrong with me, but I just didn't. I had to go and pee in a cup and all this sort of stuff, and have all the examinations, and then months later I got this letter telling me piss off, you're no good, which I'm terribly upset about.
Oh no, that was just.
And then of course in 1980, end of '79, I finished in Bethesda, but I started in 1980 at Albert.
Oh, so 1980 Albert.
Yeah,
all right.
And I was there till 95, middle of 95.
And then was that 95? Was that then
that was the amalgamation?
Yeah, and that was amalgamation.
I was the interim chief executive officer of Gold Coast City Council after the amalgamation.
Oh, right, yeah.
Greg Hoffman, in his report, which recommended the amalgamation, recommended me as the interim CEO.
Ah, yeah. And then that was when they brought in the Dr. Daines, wasn't it?
I missed out by one vote. There were 15 on the council. There was 7 from Albert, 7 from Gold Coast, and Eddie Saroff.
That's right.
He was the new boy in the block. Now, Eddie sat in my office and said, "Terry, I'm very impressed with the job you do here, and your Albert Shire Council runs so very well."
Yeah.
But the Gold Coast people talked him around, and I missed out by one vote.
Oh,
but I had applied for Cairns I didn't expect I was going to get CEO of Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And in fact, surprisingly, Bob Brown resigned before the decision was made. I always thought Bob would get the job, but the council, the Gold Coast Council, made it clear to him they didn't want him. I think I'm not aware of that.
No,
I believe that was the case.
Yeah.
And so he resigned. Yeah. So then it came down to me versus Daines. And Daines got the job. And they subsequently sacked him.
Well, that's like Logan with their flame and the Rio Tinto dude that they put up here. Like they put him in. We put him in August last year, and he resigned 2 days after John O left.
All right.
So that was 1995. You went over to Gold Coast.
No, that's when I finished at Gold Coast. Well, 95 was the amalgamation. I was interim CEO from the amalgamation, which was just before Christmas sort of thing. And the election was in April. March, April.
Yeah,
and I got passed over. They offered me to stay on. As sort of 2IC to Daines, but I just saw that was no way in the world.
No.
So I took the payout, and I had a lot of accumulated leave and long service leave and all that sort of stuff. So, but it wasn't.
Would that have been March '96? Was that election? Was it?
No, 95.
March '95.
The amalgamation was approved in December '94. The election was in March '95, and the new council came to existence in basically.
And you've got that covered in that right up.
And then I had 5 years in Cairns in 2000. In the year 2000, the election in 2000, Tom Pine, who won the election in Cairns at the amalgamation, he was the chairman of Mulgrave Shire, which was amalgamated with Cairns City, and Kevin Byrne was the bloody mayor of Cairns, and he beat Kevin. And in fact, on the council, there were only 2 former Cairns councillors. All the rest were Mulgrave or part of Tom Pine's team, so he had it stitched up. But when he retired, he didn't anoint a successor. Because he hated the councillor who should have got. It was in his team, but he obviously hated him because he never told me that. But and he wouldn't support him, and he supported the local Qantas manager, who knew nothing about local government, nothing about bloody elections or anything. And of course, Kevin Byrne got back. Kevin just said to me, "You're Tom Pine's boy."
Oh my God! So it's all political.
I was doing a good job.
And the sad thing about it, it's because you support the mayor at the time, but they don't understand you're a public servant and that you're there just to see good rule maintained and that the administration arm stays clean of the political arm. But sadly enough, this is now they're coming in, aren't they? Where it gets down to personality mayors wanting to just literally own, is it? But I don't know.
I don't know. Through my career, I used to often worry staff used to be so unhappy about some of the decisions councils made, and they talk about opposing those decisions. So I used to say to my staff, if it's legal, if it's not illegal, not immoral, and not downright dangerous, you don't have to like it, but you must support it and work as hard as you can to implement it. But I think there's a bit of lack of that these days. So sometimes it's the CEO's own fault if he gets into trouble with town. You got to flow with the time.
It's the okay. So you then from 80 till 95 in Albert.
15 years. 15 a bit years.
15.
And I was deputy from 1980 to 1984.
Oh right.
So I went. Norm Gampy, who'd been a very long time CEO of Albert, left at the time of the amalgamation. He thought he wanted to become CEO of Logan. I don't know why. But he wanted to become CEO of Logan. When they passed him over, he went up to North Queensland and became the administrator of a number of the indigenous local authorities up there, Torres and things like that. And he used to fly around in his little plane and all this sort of stuff. Well, he'd left. Kel Whitehouse, who was the deputy, was moved up to Shire Clerk, and I got appointed as deputy from Beaudesert because I knew a lot of the staff and the councillors at Albert because I'd been on the joint tourism committees and all these sort of things. The Boona Beaudesert, there was the Boona Beaudesert, Moreton on one side of Beaudesert, and then Beaudesert was in the Gold Coast, Albert, Beaudesert, Redlands, Tweed.
That's right.
Ballina, and I was the officer for those 2 joint committees. So I knew Bill Laver. He was on the the joint tourism committee down there, and so that helped me get a job at Albert. I think I performed pretty well at the interview. I mean, I'm not saying I got it easily, but I mean, I probably got a better chance
because you knew the area too. That's the other thing, like a local boy versus sort of bringing in someone that's totally, like you.
And then when Kel was supposed to go on for another 8 years. It turned out he actually was older than he had ever let on. We found out when he died. After he retired, he died. And in the funeral notice, he was, 5 or 6 years older than he said at the time. But it was always said he would last 8 years. Well, he only lasted 4. So I got appointed as Shire Clerk.
Oh, right. So you come up there in
84. So 80 to 84.
Deputy.
Beginning of February 1980, I think it was. Until October 84, I was deputy. And then from October 84 until April 95, whatever it was, I was CEO. I was Shire Clerk, and then General Manager Shire Clerk, and then CEO. We kept changing.
Shire Clerk, General CEO, general manager.
Because Shire Clark, general manager Shire Clark, and because that was when they recognised that, like up until then, there'd been no clear definition that the Shire Clerk was the boss of the Shire engineer and that sort of stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
But eventually they agreed that I got a few bucks a year or whatever it was, more than the Shire engineer, and I became the general manager, and I had certain responsibilities. But we got on very well with Ron Penelligan. He was a legend in his lunchtime.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember Ray Hill.
Yes, I do.
But I actually ran across Ray the other day because he went up to Logan and his old mate, the former mayor of Logan, Rod Gollidge, died.
Did he?
Weeks ago. He, poor old fella, he was one of our Logan's best mayors, like 90 through to the 2000.
I knew him quite well.
And then, sadly enough, got involved in a bit of a development and borrowed his money too much at the high interest rates back in the time, and got mixed up with a couple of bad eggs that sort of took him down the gurgler a bit. Sad, but one of Logan's best mayors. Back in 2005, this would have been 2005, 2006. And Gary basically would have still been at Logan today had it not been for that fella John Freeman, the mayor we got in. He came in and he was going to turn the place on its head. And Gary just found he got no personal satisfaction working for Freeman, so he just decided, well, he was 55 and soup was looking good, and he's out there doing what they all do, consulting. And, plenty good enough for what he wants to do in his life. But it's amazing. That's right, that was that Shire Clark general manager, then it was CEO, wasn't it? So you were basically CEO of Albert from October 84 to April 95.
Yes.
Yeah, and then, as you said, that's when Gold Coast amalgamated. You were the interim CEO, and then with the election, you then got appointed. Then you went up to Cairns. Cairns in what would have been about April 95, would have been, or
I can't remember. It'll be
all right.
We'll get to it somewhere along the line, but it was sort of in the first half of 95. Probably a little bit more like June or something. That I actually took up the job.
CEO, and that was until when?
Until 2000, the middle of 2000.
2005. So was that?
2000. From 90, I was in Cairns from 95 to 2000.
All right.
5 year. I had a 5-year contract. They had a 5-year term after the amalgamation. You remember they had all that bullshit?
That's right.
Reversing the bloody amalgamations and all that. And Gold Coast had a referendum, and so did Cairns. And Gold Coast shortened the term back to 3 years. Whereas we went we didn't change, we went for 5 years.
Wow.
So I had 5 years, and then 2000 election, Kevin Byrne, the former mayor of the old Cairns City, came back and that's when we parted company. So that's when I last worked for local government, apart from I did a couple of little jobs for people, and I was on that councillors conduct review panel for a couple of years, or 3 or 4 years probably, that sort of thing. But my wife had a contract in Cairns called JPET, which was Job Placement Education Training, which was basically getting almost street kids job ready. It was a Commonwealth contract. And she had that. So I became the house husband. I had the greatest 12 months of my life after 38 years in pretty stressful local government. I stayed home and bloody, swam in the pool, hopped in the car, drove up the bloody beautiful Marlin coast and all that sort of stuff, took the dogs for a swim. I did that for 12 months.
But she would have probably been, she needed that sort of support of having someone, because she would have been pretty high, out of said, like, achieving in those times would have been.
So, and of course, that set the tone. She said, well, I looked after you for 30 or nearly 40 years, so it's your turn to look after me now. And then we stayed on, like after I left the council, we stayed on for another couple of years in Cairns. We'd had bought a house there. We'd kept our house at Nerang, but we bought a house in Cairns. And then when she finished that contract, we sold the house up there and we came back in 2002.
All right.
The Gold Coast's lifeline position became vacant. So in 2004, early 2004, I took a 3-year contract as the general manager, it was called, not CEO, general manager of Lifeline Gold Coast.
Oh, right, yeah.
And that went through till 2007. So then I retired basically in 2007.
All right.
I never worked for anybody full time again. I did a couple of consultancies. I helped bloody Ray Stevens, who was the former mayor of Gold Coast. I helped him get elected to Parliament. I helped a mate on his dairy farm up at the desert. So he could. I was talking to Paul Stevens yesterday. He said he thought he remembered you.
Now he came in. When did he? What was he? Was he?
He was my deputy at Alpha.
He was your deputy.
And then he became director of administration, whatever they call it, corporate services or some of the thing of the new Gold Coast. And he replaced Daines. When they sacked Daines, Paul got the job.
Oh, yeah.
So he was CEO of Gold Coast for a number of years.
That's right, yeah.
So that's he said he remembered you.
I remember.
Because he was a great mate of Rose.
Chris.
A great mate. And they socialise apart from...
That's right. Well, they must be boys from down Orange, were they New South Wales boys?
He came to us. He came from Maclean. There's a nice bloody caravan park at Brooms Head, which was part of the Maclean Shire. And 5 years ago, that was Paul came to us in 1987 or something like that. And I used to go to Brooms Head in my caravan, and in the toilet block there is a sign saying blah 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 blah. Paul Stevens, Shire Clerk.
Oh my God!
Probably still there today.
No, but
that's where he came from.
Because I had a fair bit to do, probably with you guys in '87, based on the old, the de-amalgamation of the Albert Shire Logan Library Board.
Yes, and Maxie Smales.
Maxie Smales. Now, where was Maxie in terms of where you sat when you were? Maxie was always like a chief accountant type.
He was sort of.
And where's he now? Is he still?
He died. He passed away some years ago.
Oh, really? Oh, he's a gentleman, the old Max. Oh dear.
And Jeff Garrigan was the public relations officer at Albert. He's passed away now.
I remember Jeff. But then there was back in those days was the. Our librarian was Ruth Smith.
Yes, Ruth. Yes.
And she's passed away too.
Yes.
It was a bit tragic too.
It was.
And then there was the Marcia Lewis Waller, who was infamous Terry Junior's wife. And it was always hilarious at that time. How come she was turning out at work in these BMWs and she was only a deputy librarian. One should have sort of been reading between the lines in the mid-80s. Boy, have we got some interesting times living through that period, But so you basically then have had an interesting career. What you enjoy? Well, they're saying, what do you enjoy doing now? Well, I suppose now. What would you say is now you?
Well, I've got chooks and ducks up the backyard. We got 5,100 square metre block here. And my son and his wife live in a smaller unit over the other side of the swimming pool. And me and the wife were in here. But I've got chooks and ducks, and I do a bit of veggie garden, although a lot of it's been put on the back burner since my wife was sick. And now I'm trying to get everything organised. But I enjoy my motorhome, going, travelling and camping. We used to do a lot of camping off the grid. We didn't like going into caravan parks. We used to do a lot of
camping.
Self-contained.
Were you into water skiing and that sort of thing in your time? No. Camping.
So these days
it's sort of off the beaten track stuff. The
bus I've got now is completely self-contained and set up. You can camp for days on end without. I've got solar power. I've got all the mod cons and gas and electric hot water system and all everything you need.
Yeah.
You're
a glamper, you know.
So I'm going to continue to do that on my own, or you know, with that. You never know, there might be another lady in my life somewhere along the line. But that's the sort of thing I enjoy now. I'm still an active Rotarian. I've been in Rotary since I
remember you
the desert, 1970s. And I'm actually a past president of Nerang Rotary. And I still go to Nerang. I looked at moving up here, but there's the closest one up here is Beenleigh, and I just didn't feel I liked it, you know. So I continue to travel to Nerang, and I'm a past president, and and I still enjoy sizzling sausages and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm a member of the Gaming Community Benefit Committee.
Now, the Gaming Community Benefit, right.
And that's a committee of about 12 people.
Yeah.
Appointed by the Minister for Justice and Attorney General. And we meet 4 times a year to divvy up the proceeds of the tax on poker machines and gambling generally. So we have about 52 to $55 million a year to give away to charities and sporting clubs and all that sort of stuff. So so that's an interest that I have.
So they divvy up the, what is it? It's the tax.
There's a tax,
a
turnover tax, probably you'd call it, on poker machines and other forms of gambling, I believe. There used to be a number of these. I was originally on the Jupiter's Casino Community Benefit Committee. Yeah. But they were all amalgamated 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So our term ends in August. I'm yet to find out whether I'm going to get reappointed. It won't be the end of the world if I don't. It's a fair amount of work. You don't get much money.
You know.
But you know, they met in Mount Isa earlier in May. But I couldn't go because I'd had my knee done. I wasn't allowed to fly. But the next one's in August in Gladstone.
All right.
And we've met in Cairns and Mackay and Toowoomba and the Gold Coast.
Right.
Over the term, and it's enjoyable. But you've got to go through it. Like you get something like 1,300 applications. And worth about $30 million, and you've got about $13 million to give away. So.
Wow.
You got to go through, and we vote on every bloody
application.
But it's interesting, and it is good to be able to help some of the the sporting clubs, the Rotary clubs, the Apex clubs, all those sort of people,
all the causes that that fall. Because I remember, I think that was something that Logan, they even in the past life, I remember, used to get something for their Mayor's welfare committees or something like that. It was sort of
it's been good. I've been on it for probably 5 years or something like that.
But that's
whether
sort of,
I got appointed by the coalition government,
right?
By the Conservatives, and we're going to get reappointed by the Labor government, but unless they have a quick election beforehand, But I'm not worried one way or the other, but I wouldn't mind doing it again.
No. But that's that's the Gaming Community Benefit Committee. And you're a member of that board, isn't it? It's a member of the board.
It's a committee. It was called a board, but it's now called a Community Benefit Committee.
And distributing, say, 13 million in sort of okay, so talking about role models, who did you class as good role models in your...
I think there's a fellow in Brisbane City Council called Jim Burns. He was a sort of a special investigator or inspector, worked directly under the town clerk.
Yes.
And he was actually secretary of the Institute of Municipal Administration when I was a kid. And I got seconded to work with Jim on a few projects.
All right.
And he got me to help set up the conferences of the IM. It was AIM, wasn't it? OAIM.
The Institute of Municipal
Administration, and then it was the Institute of Municipal Management at one stage. And they had all their annual conference was always in.
The IMM,
and the conferences were always held in Brisbane. And he used to get me to help him with those bloody conferences. So I got to go before I was. Remember the thing. I used to go to the bloody sessions and more importantly, the bloody
the social life.
The social events, you know.
Yeah.
And in those days, the biggest event of the year was the Dunlop dinner. Dunlop used to sponsor a dinner.
All right.
You know, you'd come home with gifts and bloody ashtrays and all that But it was great. It was great to see the bloody cream of the local government at work in the play. You know?
Yeah.
And I got really inspired by a lot of those fellas. But, you know, Jim sort of introduced me to that. And then Keith Stuckey at Bay Desert was I'd have to think he was the biggest mentor that I had. You know?
Right, yeah.
Keith identified, you know, because of my interaction with him at these conferences and that sort of thing, he identified me as someone he wanted to work for him, and you know, that's when I became the senior clerk down there. See, at the time in Brisbane, there was the great upheaval where they sacked Tom McCauley, who was the town clerk at Brisbane, and Clem Jones sacked Tom McCauley.
Yeah.
And there was all sorts of bloody problems. They actually changed the act, I think, later. But Ivan Feen, Ron Irvine and myself all left.
Ivan, who was it?
Feen, F-I-E-N.
Oh, yeah.
And Ron Irvine. Ivan Feen went as deputy at Redcliffe.
Oh.
This is in, you know, the early 70s.
Yeah. And Ron
Irvine went as deputy at Gympie. And I went as senior clerk at Bay Desert. We were all in the same section. I was committee clerk number 2. I used to do the health committee and the finance committee and the council meetings.
Yeah.
And all the minutes and the correspondence and all that sort of stuff. And Ron Irvine was the committee clerk number 1, I think he was, and Ivan Feen was the senior clerk. But because of this political upheaval, a lot of people looked for greener pastures. And
that was all at BCC, yeah. And that was Tom McCauley. He was the
town clerk.
Town clerk, yeah.
Town clerk and city administrator.
But he got sacked by.
He got sacked by Clem Jones.
And then, and who came in after that? Then who came in? Tom got sacked.
Yeah, I can't even think of who it was now. They had.
But then, and then it was sort of like that would have been in the. When you said you went to Desert.
Yeah, I went to Desert in 72.
Yeah.
So Tom McCauley's sacking would have been 70, 71, something like that.
Yeah.
Clem ended up with an almost absolute majority on the council. There's one non-Labor man at the time.
Yeah.
Everyone else got bloody wiped. They're all Labor. So he put his head there. I was committee clerk number 3 for about 12 months. And committee clerk number 3 used to do what they called the Planning Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Which was chaired by Clem.
Yeah.
And it was made up of Cliff Greenfield was the chairman of the Health Committee.
Yeah.
Clem himself was the chairman, but there were people from, I can't even think of their names now, but there was a bloke from the University of Queensland, there was the managing director of McDonnell and Easts, there was Jack Edgerton from the Trades and Labour Council, there was a professor, someone or other, and they used to come in on I think it was monthly basis.
Yeah.
And look at all these big planning proposals.
Yeah.
And the meeting would start 2:00 in the afternoon and could go till midnight.
Well, I remember going to early, but Logan committees, town planning would go 2 days.
Yeah.
As I said, Lindsay Roberts was he was the chair of the library board when we were disbanding, and that was in 87. I remember the last few meetings of that. You would have been CEO then at Albert.
CEO of Albert, but I didn't.
Maxie was
our officer representative.
Yeah, he was,
board.
and then what's his name? John Stevens. You were CEO. Who was your deputy? Was the guy from McLean?
Paul Stevens.
Paul. That's right.
Paul became my deputy in 87.
Yeah. I think I just was meeting Paul as we were winding up the board in June 87.
Because I had a bit of a problems deputy, a bloke named Joe Hill, who had come and got the job.
Yeah.
And then it was subsequently found that he'd done some bloody problem and drawn his super. And then plus he was bloody conspiring with one of councillors against Russell Hinds, and he dobbed Russell in on the basis that Russell hadn't paid his bloody royalties on his quarry.
Oh, shit.
And I had to front the bloody Premier with our legal advisors and all that. We showed very clearly that we had legal advice that said Russell didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
And then, so anyway, we ended up having to sack Joe.
That's right. Yeah, and that's when Paul came.
And then Paul came up.
Yeah, I can just remember. Yeah, there was a bit of a. Yeah, it was a bit of a awkward time for you to have to sort of manage.
He was a funny little fella.
Yeah. Oh well, that was sort of interesting. I was trying to get some notes down on those role models. Like I just said, would have been Keith Stuckey and your guy in Brisbane City and
they're probably the main ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I also, sort of found a number of the Shire clerks and that I met at the same time, the CEO as Keith Stuckey, like Charlie Grant from Boona, and Herb Oliver from Killeen Shire. They were the movers and shakers, they were in their sort of 40s, 50s, that sort of thing. And it was a different era, But they were good operators, and I got to know them pretty well. And,
so Charlie Grant, and who's the guy from the
Herb Oliver?
Herb.
He's still going strong. He's 80 odd.
Yeah. At where was he from?
Kolan, Kolan.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Gin, that sort of area.
Yeah. And they would have been like colleagues in sort of your peers that you used to meet up with.
Well, they were bloody colleagues and peers to Keith Stuckey. Yeah. So they were the same sort of vintage, but they took me under their wing a lot. I felt very comfortable with them, and they. I mean, I was only a young fellow, and most you'd be sort of in awe of these blokes. But I just found them so bloody approachable and
you saw them as good role models at the time. At that time of
Albert Shire used to be very keen on having its staff members of associations and all that sort of thing. And was also very keen on hosting conferences. Now we used to host the local government association conference. And in 91 or something like that, we hosted the conference of the Institute of Municipal Management, or whatever it was in those days, at Bond University.
All right, yeah.
And I tried it 12 months earlier unsuccessfully to get on the Divisional Council.
Yeah.
But we had one of the best conferences.
And the Divisional Council is of the Institute of Management, was it?
Of the Institute of Municipal Management, which is the LGMA today.
Yeah.
And whatever your governing body of LGMA today, in those days it was the Divisional Council. There was a president and a number of
all right, so that's
now, we had one of the best conferences ever at Bond University. I've had people,
91,
bloody 20 years later tell me it was the best conference they ever went to.
Yeah.
Because we got Paul Sharrett. Remember Paul Sharrett?
Paul
Sharrett put together the bloody social program for the bloody thing at the Bond University. And we had some American bloody singer, and it was the greatest thing. And I said the pork barrelling worked because I got elected to the Divisional Council. So that was something like, would have been 90, 91.
Yeah.
And when I went to Cairns in 95... Brian Atone was on the Divisional Council.
All right. Well, he's still there today.
Yeah.
Oh, where is he now? Yeah.
He's retired, but he's around. He was an Emerald, was like his last job.
Yeah.
But I decided at that point that it was unreasonable for two of us to be on the Divisional Council.
Right.
I went to Cairns, and it was not turmoil, but it was a stressful time in Cairns. An amalgamation, a lot of infighting, all that sort of stuff. So I said to Gary Keller, I think Gary was the president at the time. I said, Gary, I'm not going to continue on the Divisional Council. I think I went to the next election, sort of thing. But I let Brian continue.
That's right. Yeah.
So I enjoyed it was about 4.5 years I was on the Divisional Council of the.
So that's a highlight. Yeah. No, very interesting times. And now, what changes did you observe in your time, regulatory, political, etc.?
Well, everything.
Changes, seen it all.
When I first started in Brisbane City Council, Miss McLaughlin was in charge of the stationery. And if you wanted a new Bic biro, you had to take the old Bic biro back to Miss McLaughlin.
All right, yeah.
Now they hand out $100,000 phones to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that fair dinkum. You could not get a new biro from Miss McLaughlin unless you had the old one. If you didn't have an old one, you had to go and buy your own biro.
Yeah. Now, handout,
that was the sort of thing that just saying how different. It was a completely different world. In those days, you got paid in cash.
Yes.
I mean, that's another thing. I mean, it might sound silly, but after
so
many years of going home with a pocket full of money,
and
then now you just get a bloody slip and you got to sort it out.
Oh, they've got to get
hundreds of thousands of dollars in this bag, and then drive all the way back and pay another bloke somewhere else and all that sort of stuff. And we did the same at Albert when we first went on, and we got robbed.
Yeah.
I was at the bloody LGM. No, it might have been the LGA conference in Toowoomba. In those days you didn't have mobile phones or anything. They used to put messages up on the bloody screen. Phone call Terry Moore and ring the office or somebody.
Yeah.
So I ran the office and they said, "We've been robbed. Our payroll's just been robbed."
Yeah.
And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the copper. There was a copper there. Yeah. And he dived. To get on the ground or something. He threw himself on the ground, landed on the paymaster, and just about killed him.
Yeah.
They took all this money and off they went. Oh, wow. So it was great to go from doing it that way to putting it on in the bank, because you remember the payroll in Bethesda used to come from this Computer Act.
Yeah, Computer Act.
Used to run the payroll and used to come down on the Pioneer bus.
Yeah,
and it'd arrive in the morning, and then you give a copy of whatever you needed to the bank, and they'd get the cash down, and then you'd sit in that bloody council chamber and pack all this money into the bloody envelopes, And I mean, the legislation, where do you start? The whole process has changed, hasn't it? I mean, I can't say anything other than I strongly believe we're over-regulated,
Okay.
A lot of it's to do with bloody dishonest people and the time spent to try and get them. But I could sit here all day and think about different things that have changed. There's just so much of it.
No.
And I don't know if it's all for the best.
Right.
And I've often said I don't think a lot of the changes benefited the ratepayers more as much as they might have benefited the staff and the organisation even. But well, I suppose my low lights would have been losing my job at Albert or Gold Coast, whatever you want to call it. For not because I didn't do my job well or anything, it's just purely it suited the political climate at the time not to have me. And then the same in Cairns. I don't think I put a foot wrong,
but again, it was based
the political
on
situation. They just didn't want me anymore. So they'd be the sort of low lights.
No, that's it. Now what they're saying is, as CEO, what worked for you?
I found myself better at dealing with people than I think a lot of people. I think the fact that I started at the very bottom in Brisbane City Council. I mean, my biggest duty when I first started in Brisbane City Council was to go out and buy the morning teas and lunches for all the staff. Staff of about 20 people. In the office that I worked in. That's where I started. Didn't last. I mean, that probably only lasted 6 months, and then some younger bloke came in underneath me.
But
I was at the very
starting
bottom,
at the bottom.
And working right up through the ranks, I understood what the staff felt. I found that a strength that I could appreciate what the rank and file office workers anyway. Felt.
Appreciate the value or the contributions by all staff.
Yes. And I used to believe strongly in supporting the staff. When I left Albert, I got a letter signed by the State Secretary of the Union. Whatever it was called in those days, saying, supporting me and saying what a great CEO I'd been and how unusual it was for a union to be supportive of a CEO.
And that was I think a great thing in creating that good culture, because we went through a bit of a time, didn't we, where it was unions and management and what have you. But then you begin to wonder now, if all this contract type work coming in, it's very tough, and it's
I found that a strength, and I also believed I worked very well with the elected council, and I never played any favourites. It's a different world now. You don't, I found that out.
Yeah.
Years ago, a young fellow who was a bit older than me at the time, but he said, "Terry, you remember this for the rest of your career. You will never have a friend in the council chamber." He said that they might be your best friend outside the council chamber, but when the crunch comes, they will look after themselves before they'll look after you.
Yeah.
And I sort of lived by that to some extent, that I never trusted, I don't mean it badly, but they were political creatures, and they would sacrifice you before they would bloody be seen as doing, being caught out themselves.
No,
so they're the sort of things I found. I had a great working relationship with my chairman and mayors, and with the councillors, and as a whole, not as individuals, and I believe I was fair and didn't get involved in the petty bloody crap that went on,
Be fair and not get involved in petty issues. What did you have to change about yourself or your approach along the way?
I saw that there. I don't know. I can't remember.
No.
I think I changed, but I didn't feel I had to change. But I think you learn as you go.
Yeah.
And the changing environment, you learn to adjust to that.
With adjusting to the changing environment.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I don't never remember saying to myself, I'm going to have to do this better or change my outlook in life.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing it right. But things were forced on me.
Yeah.
Because of the legislation changing and circumstances changing and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Legislation changes just mean the need to adopt different approaches.
Yeah.
And what was the most difficult part of your role?
I probably found it difficult to discipline people. I did it. But over the years I had to dismiss quite a number of people, some of whom I felt were my friends. I always found that stressful. I didn't like doing it, but I instigated bloody changes in the organisation, which saw people no longer fitting into the organisation, and you had to tell them that and send them on their way. And then there were other times where people were caught out doing the wrong thing and had to be.
I guess it's that whole thing of having the courageous conversations, I suppose.
And conflict is a hard thing for most people, to front up to someone, look them in the face and say, you stole something and you're fired, or to tell them, look, we don't see our futures going together, and you're a great fellow, and I hope you'll do it, and here's $100,000 for your trouble. And,
but leave quietly and don't make any life miserable for you.
That was stressful at times.
And best thing about having a local government career?
I suppose I enjoyed my local government career, being involved in so much of the change and the planning, particularly in Albert Shire, to look back now of what there is that I can remember them talking about when they were not there. Things like Robina.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at a meeting in Albert Shire Chambers where a Boston architect came and put a big map on the table of this proposed development called Robina. It had the Robina Town Centre and the Grand Canal and all this sort of stuff. And Arthur Earl and a bloke named Robin Lowe from Singapore had got together and were going to develop this land, which had been basically a swamp. And it was sold at auction by ASL or somebody. The next minute, and it's happened. I was at meetings where we got plans for Dream World and Movie World, and lot of the residential developments. Pacific Fair was part of Albert Shire. The casino, the Carrara Sporting Complex, which is now going to be a major part of the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a paddock which Huey Munson and Bill Laver had purchased from Arthur Earl.
Yeah.
But we, as part of the approval of the casino, the council got 1.2 million to spend on community infrastructure.
Yeah.
And they built the oval and the original little basketball stadium there at Carrara. Well, I was all part of that.
Right, yeah. And so to sort of see those things.
Yes, we flew in a helicopter with that bloody, what was his name, Mike Gore.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he took us up, Bill Laver and I, he had a little 3-person helicopter. Yeah. And the whole council and senior staff went up and met him at Hope Island.
Yeah, yeah.
And he flew us. I went with Bill, and he flew us over. And he said, "There's going to be a Hyatt hotel there, and there's going to be this there." And you know, it was a bloody mosquito-infested swamp.
Yeah.
And sort of we looked at each other and raised our eyebrows.
Yeah. And look at it now. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. That was I remember fame, and then we got bloody Frank Sinatra coming over and bloody Whitney Houston for the bloody opening.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was away. I went. I didn't go there. I was in. Tasmania or something like that on holidays, but it doesn't matter. But
no, I can remember. It would have been early '88, I think it was, because I remember Gary and Trish Keller came down because we babysat their kids while they could go to the because you know their kids and my kids were about the same. Gary and me are the same vintage, and I can remember going to see this bloody concert.
To see that sort of and we built. We approved, at one stage there were 55 golf courses either in existence, under construction or approved in Albert Shire.
Oh, good.
As part of that sort of development.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started at Albert there was a population of 55,000. At the time of the amalgamation that had got up to 100 and something thousand, you know.
Oh, right.
It was the fastest growing local authority in Australia for many, many years.
Yeah. Yeah,
to be part of that and to sort of, you know, see it all was great. So.
Of that and now to see that it's still thriving. It's still you know, it's just getting bigger and bigger.
I mean, the amalgamation was a tragedy as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, smarter people than me made that happen.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we're better off or worse off as a result of the amalgamation. I would probably say we're worse off because it's I missed out as a result of it. But I'm not sure even the later amalgamations throughout Queensland, which reduced the number of local authorities from whatever it was 100 and something to 70 something.
So
and I think the bigger the local authority, the less direct contact there is with the ratepayer. I mean, in Bedesset Shire, when we were in Bedesset Shire, there was a sort of a very clear interface between the community and the individual councillors.
Yeah.
When it gets too big, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of the tragedy I feel, you know. But it's all about efficiency and politics and all the rest of it,
yeah. And advice to newcomers, what would be your parting words?
Don't micromanage.
Yeah.
Build a strong, you can have this.
Yeah.
Build a strong, united senior executive team that you trust and let them get on with the job.
Yes.
Ensure regular feedback.
Yeah.
Recognise all staff as your most valuable resource and ensure effective communications both vertically and horizontally in the organisation.
Yeah.
Be visible and available to staff.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that you should be mates with everyone or be loved. You don't need to be loved, but you need to be respected. But you need the staff to know who you are.
Yeah.
I used to have a rule at Albert and later on at Cairns. Any new indoor staff, not the outside staff, had to be brought up within the first couple of weeks of their employment to meet me.
Yes.
And I used to say to them, "Oh, mate, I might see you in a couple of weeks' time and I won't know who you are."
Yeah.
But I said, "You will know who I am and then I'm available to be approached if you need to talk."
Absolutely, yeah.
And I used to also get my directors and their direct reports to meet with me once a month or so.
Yeah.
And I used to encourage those reports. If you've got any problems, you bring them up at this meeting and tell me about them in front of your director.
Yeah.
And it used to work really well, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing I'd say to people.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. No,
Build a professional working relationship with the mayor and councillors. You've got to have a good working relationship.
Yep.
You may as well give it away if you can't work with the bloody elected people.
Yes. Yep.
And as I said earlier, you support what they do unless it's illegal, immoral, or downright dangerous.
Yeah.
If it's not that and they won't change, well, you can resign or something. But you can't fight the council. You know?
No.
And then don't take yourself too seriously and admit when you're wrong.
Yes.